Hello Canada, welcome back to another edition of the Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm your host, Alias Tagay. Well, depressing news, Canada has officially joined the axis of evil, turning a complete blind eye to what is going on in Iran. Now, there has been the blackout that the Islamic regime, the psychopaths that run Iran, have done to the freedom fighters, to their citizens. Man, women, and child lay in pools on the streets. The only real footage that I've got coming out of there, I can't show you on my channel. In the meantime, you've got the useless Anita Anand posting how a, meaning singular, Canadian, has died. And how they stand up for the freedoms and blah, blah, blah. It's all bull crap. Carney flees to China, signs a bunch of MOUs, and gets caught, which I made a small clip of, and I'm going to show some of it here on today's episode as well. And thanks to all of the many fans out there, and hopefully many new fans, it becomes, common knowledge on the evil that we have placed in the highest seat of our country. Now, of course, off previous episodes, I've shown you how a lot of the Iranians, and of course, there's most of the people who have come from countries with communist, socialist, fascist takeovers, or just run that way, and the abuses that have done to them that have fled to Canada. All of them see the Liberal Party as the major stepping stones leading us down the same path. Thus why they open the floodgates of immigration, non-vetted immigration. This is so they can control power. This is what Elon Musk and a lot of the very, very intellectually brilliant people down in the States, this is why they jumped on the Trump bandwagon, to put an end to this, because they saw that they were using the goodness of North Americans, our gracious heart, our forgiveness, and just how amazing we really are here, our softness and kindness, against us. We're going to kind of go through this whole China trip today. And this is I haven't slept much at all. Like winks between my phone and computer alarms going off, trying to keep up with what's going on in Iran, and of course building some files in the background in the meantime, trying to keep my eyes awake here so I don't miss out on anything, because I like the majority, there's been 4 or 5 different polls that have been run on X, and it's overwhelming. Like 96 is the lowest poll. That was the one. Of the other 4 or 5 that I've seen come across, it's 98% or higher. The people who are voting on this are in favor of Trump doing something to save the lives of the people who want democracy. That being said, let's get started on our useless globalist leader.
Excuse me, sir. Why don't you get in, sir? Thank you. It's not listening.
Now this gentleman right here, the ambassador to Canada, he's an evil, twisted little bugger. Started already running propaganda campaigns the day before Carney left. Now this has been going on for a long time because we know China's influence in Canada. Well, a lot of people call us Chinata. That's him shaking his hand down. Well, he put out this. Advancing the Global Security Initiative, deepening international law enforcement cooperation. As normal, I post everything in my description to make sure that everybody who watches my channel has the ability to read and see everything in its entirety. I don't AI, I don't use clips and sound bites. Sorry, so sorry, just the truth, just the facts. I'm not even going to go over any of this because the whole thing is propaganda. And that's what Wong is put here to do. Propaganda. Just like all of mainstream media and newspapers in Canada. It's absolutely disgusting.
With Pete Hoekstra, the U.S. ambassador to Canada. So the reason I ask you that is because I think it does relate to the relationship between Canada and the U.S., and at the end of the day, it may relate to trade deals. So, when I see Vice President J.D. Vance leaning into Canada and having some, particularly blunt points to make about how Canada has handled migration and its economy, I wonder, does that lead you down to the path where you feel, when it comes to a trade agreement like USMCA, where the decisions made in Canada on that front could affect the outcome of trade deals?
Yes. Okay. I mean, if if Canada allows, significant amounts, steel has been an issue.
Yeah.
Okay. If Canada has a policy on steel that, or let's say product XYZ, that allows countries from around the world to dump that product into Canada, and that Canada then uses those products, uses those materials for stuff that they export to the United States, would we recognize that reality? And the answer is yes, because we would believe that would create unfair competition for companies in the U.S. that use those same materials, but we prohibit the dumping.
So with that in mind, to talk about that, right now as you're here in Montreal, Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, is in China. I've heard your thoughts on how China does trade. A lot of people believe that China cheats on trade. Lo and behold, we have Canada seemingly opening up more doors to China. How do you view that? That the Prime Minister of Canada right now is in China trying to find a replacement for U.S. trade.
We do business with China. Canada, is more than welcome to do business with China. Again, you're a sovereign country. If you want to do business with China and you see China...
But you brought up the dumping, right? And steel, right? China dumps steel into Canada, then Canada may be dumping steel into the U.S., right? So that's the link.
I think I think what we would like to see, and our view would be, and we've had these discussions with Canada, is that we would like to see a coherent strategy versus the threats that we believe come from China. And Canada was very supportive on autos, on EVs. Okay, we put in a tariff regime. Canada followed suit. Very similar, if not identical. Obviously, we would view that as a positive development because, much of this is the economic bloc of North America. So, what Mark Carney is doing in Canada is, I'm hoping that, there's a clarity between Mark and the president as to what Canada is trying to achieve. There's an openness and a sharing Doesn't mean that Canada is going to do exactly what we want or the president wants, but that there's an understanding of we go there, this may be the U.S. response.
And we've heard reports that Canada is considering removing those EV tariffs on Chinese-made EVs. Would you view that as a bad thing for the future of any Canada-U.S. trade deal?
No, I think it would have if you're allowing EVs and other vehicles to come in from China, I would say don't necessarily expect that the U.S. border is going to be porous and allow Chinese vehicles to come through China and pour into the United States. No.
I want to talk
Now, a lot of people, kind of the swing voters, because at least they kind of see and recognize some of the propaganda, but yet are still kind of married to some form of legacy, be it the newspapers or the crap that they run on the air, the bought and paid for propaganda. And they're saying things along the lines of, well, they're forcing us to go to China. I mean, who can deal with Trump, right? This entire aggression that Trump has towards Canada, 80%, if not more, of it came from the last 10 years. It's because of the lost decade of the socialist liberals that we are in the position we are in today. Now, I'm not to say that he wouldn't have came after our auto. He might have very well. He might have. Personally, in the back of my mind, I think, probably not as aggressive. And probably not at all if he didn't have the CEOs, previous episodes people, if you're a new subscriber, who were telling him, you got to get rid of these EV mandates. It is going to destroy our auto companies. Canada was going 1,000 times faster at this communist ideology of forcing everybody into an EV market. How did all that money go down, people? They never got rid of the EV mandate. So anybody out there who's watching that's part of the auto sector, again, previous episodes, because this includes Dougie, the useless, not the brother Ford, sold you out. Sold you out. Of course Trump is going to take all of our auto away from us because they didn't really want to be here. They can't make money here, not when they're being forced to do something that they know not only is going to destroy the profits off of their companies, but that they're going to be taxed so highly, and that the carbon credit system was set up to give other auto companies, and Elon's one of them. Elon's raking in hundreds upon hundreds, if not billions of dollars off of the carbon credit scheme. It's all a scam. The whole carbon credit is set up kind of like a socialist takeover. And who's the largest investors in it? Brookfield and Carney. The only reason Carney ran for prime minister is because he was subpoenaed down in the States. Which, again, previous episodes with the G-Fans on how they were purposely manipulating and using tactics to force companies in order to sway their business one way or the other, or be boycotted or shut down. This is illegal. This is the takeover. There's old money and new money, And then there's kind of the people in the middle who are trying to destroy both and take over everything. And they're called the New World Order. These are the global elitists. This is the Davos crowd. This is the WEF. Most of the people who are now controlling the International Monetary Fund, which is why they created BRICS for Russia, right? India, China, etc., and more countries are joining it, and why the greenback, which is the American dollar, has been plummeting. They're trying to take over the world. These are absolute psychopaths. They don't care. They're the ones making sure you don't see what's going on in Iran, fibbing about the numbers, using their own NGOs to produce numbers like, oh, there's only 2,500 dead, when we know now it's well over 30,000. And in the last 12 hours, I can't even tell you, the largest crowds ever are on the streets in Tehran. Since the beginning. Bodies line the streets everywhere. They have opened full, just what they are doing, people, what they are doing. And mainstream, with the help of their puppet masters like Carney and all of the bought and paid for media, which I've shown you. Again, if you're a new subscriber, please check out the previous episodes, like especially the last 2 or 3 that I've done, exposing what's really going on. Don't believe me? Well,
as you mentioned, mine is the first visit of a Canadian Prime Minister to China in nearly a decade.
Now, I'm a Saskatchewanite. A lot of us are really PO'd at Mo for just ignoring, not answering, avoiding, and using propaganda to hide the separation movement in our province. He won't even discuss it when it comes to Alberta. And of course, media, bought and paid for, are trying to hide the numbers as well. Watch his reaction. I think he just got a kick in the head wake-up call.
The world has changed much since that last visit. And I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order. For the new world order.
Look at his face.
For the new world order. It's a partnership with new folk.
Welcome
focus,
to reality.
Greater depth and a sense of purpose. And I look forward to realizing its promise and building on it in the years to come. And I look forward to realizing
I think I
its
saw
promise
puffs of smoke
and
coming out of
building
his
on it
ears.
in the years to come.
Now,
I believe
look at Jolie.
the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order. It's a partnership with new focus and
She
greater
can't
depth,
hold
and a
her
sense of
grin
purpose.
in.
And I look forward
She can't
to
hold it.
realizing its promise and building on it in the years to come.
She can't hold it.
Sets us up well for the new world order. It's a partnership with new focus and greater depth and a sense of purpose. And I look forward to realizing its promise and building on it in the years to come.
She's tickled right pink. She's part of this entire socialist agenda. She knows what's going on. Now, I have no proof to say, hey, she's invested in it, but she has to be. Look at what's going on with Freeland. She's back in my grandparents' home country. Her grandfather's the reason that my family fled, because of his ties to Hitler, to the SS. He was a propaganda master. Chrysler Freeland's just the same. They don't care about you. They don't care.
Talk a bit about sovereignty here, particularly in light of what's happened with the discussion over Greenland, right? The line that I've heard from the president and the U.S. administration that if they don't do something with Greenland, that Russia or China will, right? That's the rationale and the reasoning behind that. I wonder if that also applies to Canada's north, because there have been many people that say that Canada isn't doing enough in the north. And I would think there's also been Russia and China having an interest in Canada's north. Do you view it the same way, that if Canada doesn't do something with its north, that it'll end up in Russia and China or Chinese hands, and that the United States may have to act on that front?
Now, I urge you to watch this entire interview. He does a fabulous job. And Hochul, he's so straightforward and honest that it pisses a lot of Canadians off. He's just, suck it up, princess. Welcome to reality. Now, what he is missing is that, as I have shown, again, previous episodes, where the one, the only, the great Sam Cooper has exposed and has been trying to get the word out. How do you think the United States feels when the Liberal Party invites China into Canada? Not only business, uses Chinese influence in order to get politicians elected so that the Liberals can take power. By the way, the foreign interference chair is still empty and nothing has been done. But what a lot of people don't know is Canada let the CCP military come and train in our Arctic. Would you not say that's kind of the stupidest thing you would want to do, knowing that Russia and China, especially China, if there is to be a third world war, it's going to happen over Canada. Everything that comes from China, and especially Russia, is going to go over our heads. The first line of contact is our north, including, drumroll, Greenland.
Well, you got a couple of things going on. You got, number one, the Vice President and our Secretary of State are meeting with officials from Greenland, perhaps right now. Okay, let's see where that all ends up over the next couple of weeks, over the next couple of months. The second one is almost purely hypothetical. I mean, the indications from the Canadian government has been that we want to very, very closely coordinate and cooperate with the United States on Canada's north. Matter of fact, Canada, Finland, and the United States have reached agreement on, I think, a very interesting pact on building icebreakers. Okay, some of it is Canadian. Well, I guess it's Canadian manufacturing. You're buying a shipbuilding or investing in a shipbuilding facility on America's south coast. We're using Finland technology, and so the Finns, the Canadians, and the Americans, we're not moving to a point where we're disagreeing on how to protect the North. We're actually working together to make sure that we are in lockstep.
So on defense, you would say we are in alignment on that front right now.
Well, there's a lot in defense.
Yeah.
Okay, we've done so much together on defense. I think we're continuing to do a lot together on defense. I think that is most likely where we are going to forward. We've created a great defense infrastructure in Canada. We started off with aerospace,
which has been a big part of your visit.
Big part of my visit. Yeah. Okay, but what has helped generate that? Canadian ingenuity, Canadian investment, Canadian workforce in partnership with American investment, creativity for some of the products on the F-35. We've transferred intellectual property to Canadian companies to help them be an effective partner in building F-35s. So
Now, a lot of people probably didn't know that. Now, this all occurred when we had first, with the Conservatives, signed to say, yeah, we're going to get involved with this F-35. It created thousands and thousands of jobs, as well as all of these other intermediate and small businesses that became part of this larger process. And then you get the Liberals that come in and they say, no, we cancel that. We don't want to buy that. How do you think the Americans feel now that we have secret, top secret, military information on parts of this plane, and we're helping to build parts of this plane in an alliance? You see where I'm going with this? This is why this last decade has created this entire, tariffs and squishing of our economy. The Americans are tired of it, and it's not just Trump. The Democrats were also talking about this. Again, thanks to Sam Cooper, previous episodes. How do they feel? And then they say, well, okay, we're going to do the F-35s. Well, by then, now the costs have blown up, and then we're going, holy shit, we can't afford all these F-35s now because, we waited too long, and now the price is, 40 times what it was supposed to be. And then out of pure spite, because, Canada, with the brainwashing through propaganda, re-elected the Liberals again under the General Carney. We just tossed the captain and got the General, and then he starts saying, well, we're going to get the Griffin. How do you think the States feels? They're pissed. The Liberal Party's a socialist party. Everything they have done has been not only anti-Canadian, I'm talking 100% against the morals of what built our nation. This is why most of the people you talk to go, oh man, Canada's gone. It's not the same. It's been destroyed. Because it is. It's destroyed. Propaganda is the main reason. The biggest arm, the biggest push, the biggest tool that any socialist or communist government has is propaganda. That's what gets them in power and makes them hold power. And then once they're in and they got their talons down and they control all of the media, like Canada, and these next bills that are coming through are the finishing stages, because people like me, poof, will be gone. People have to wake up. Now the big kicker, that again, they're just not telling you. Trump's plan is working. Denmark is increasing its military presence in Greenland. There have been some documents. I can't prove them that they're real, so I'm not going to show them. But there's been a lot of different documents that have come out. And it seems as though Denmark has known. They're just not telling anybody that there are Chinese and Russian subs all around the north end of Greenland. Do you think the States is stupid? They know this. They know this. Trump is using an aggressive hand in order to get the north part of America secured. And after 10 years of a socialist government, do you think the Americans are happy? Do you think the entire military and all of the alphabet, the CIA, FBI, and all the rest that are dealing with everything from the drugs to the Chinese interference, to the borders, to the weak military, to reneging on our promises, do you think that they're happy with us? They're not happy with us. It's disgusting.
Official state visit. He goes to China and all he gets is this lousy t-shirt. is the expression I think Canadians are going to probably wind up experiencing after the fact, because there's a lot at stake here. Yes, Mark Carney is trying to send a signal to Donald Trump and the tariff regime that seems to have come to a standstill, that they can somehow do a deal with China. The problem is that we're not dealing with a democratic nation. We're not dealing with a country that really has Canada's interests or trade at heart. At the end of the day, we know that China has ambitions for global domination. We know that it wants to control the resources of many places it's done work with around the world. We just saw, of course, its walk away from Venezuela after the United States kicked out Maduro, and 800,000 barrels are heading towards the U.S. Gulf Coast, either to be used by refineries or at least the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. But Canada has the potential to actually make not only its human rights declarations, which it must make directly to President Xi Jinping, it also has an obligation to demand and to suggest that perhaps the country could take interest, as long as it's Canadians controlling it, in the supply of oil that the world has come to covet. Yes, Canada has the fourth largest provable reserves of oil and gas in the world, but we're not getting it to market. And it took a lot of time, more than a decade, to finally get the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion built. But that came at an expense of $50 billion to consumers and to taxpayers in this country, not just our generation, but likely for generations to come, as it'll take many years to pay that amount off, especially in a country that has a debt, some $1.4 trillion, has deficits now approaching the $80 billion a year level. All this really means that what can we expect from the trip? Well, it won't just be about oil. It's also going to have to be about trade tariffs. Now, a lot of people are suggesting that maybe, given that we got into the EV craze because the Biden administration's IRA, and I'm not talking Irish Republican Army, but in fact the Inflation Reduction Act of 2021, where Biden said they're going to spend trillions of dollars to get, to electrify and to promote EVs and battery production and all this renewable nonsense, which wound up being a massive waste of time. Canada didn't want to be caught out, so it tilted its automotive sector towards building those things. The IRA is gone. Biden is gone, and so of course are the billions of dollars that went with it. And Canadians are now seeing bankruptcies and moves by not only the auto sector, but by those that were building these products, whether it's buses or whether it's batteries or whether it's automotive, now having walked away from it like a bad smell. So what are we dealing with China today? Well, they're concerned that they want to dump in Canada, millions of cheap EVs that they would like to send to Canada, but we've put up tariffs as a result of requests by the United States, substantial.
Now, it's not just this whole surveillance thing. And of course, everybody's always, well, it's the surveillance, it's the surveillance, it's the surveillance. There is that, because China spies on everybody. They're one of the worst, if not the worst. Even Russia protects itself against China, and they're buddies. These EVs are getting huge dollars from the communist regime of China to purposely undervalue our own dollars. This is what they've been doing for 40 years. This is why Pierre loved them. This is why Justin said, because they can turn their economy around on a dime by using socialist tactics, monopolies controlled by certain families and individuals loyal to the party, and on the backs of its taxpayers and citizens, and using its own minerals and resources for their own profits, not our profit, in order to subsidize everything we produce. Now, which government has subsidized more companies than any other in history? Drum roll! The New Decade Liberal Socialist Party. And that takes us to these goofballs.
The MOU that you signed today puts a lot more emphasis on oil and gas, and specifically Canada looking to expand its supply to the United States. That's a big difference than the one in 2017 that was signed between Trudeau and the Chinese government. What opportunity do you think China offers when it comes to the export of oil and gas?
So I disagree with that framing. I think this was a framing around Canada and China sharing a view on how to get to net zero. This was a framing.
Who invented the net zero, the largest emitter in the world? Have they reduced their emissions since they started it? Zero, zilch, nada. Although they did get the New World Order, the sycophants, the megalomaniacs, the psychopaths to invest. Because they don't care about you. They don't care. The whole carbon credit is a scheme.
Around how we work together in, yes, conventional energy, but also in clean energy. We met today with a number of clean energy companies who are world leaders in things like onshore and offshore wind.
Now, I don't have enough time on this episode, but you know where this is going. Brookfield and all of these other idiots are all invested into these companies. It is what it is. And in fact, I've already shown a lot of these documents on previous episodes exposing Carney and Brookfield.
World leaders, things like solar, world leaders in things like grid storage. We had comprehensive discussions around how they would like to bring that technology to Canada, help us deploy that so we can deliver affordable green power to power the transition to net zero. Yes, we also talked about conventional energy. We talked about it in the context of they really like that we produce the lowest carbon intensity LNG in the world. They are an investor in our first LNG project. They are going to be an investor in our second LNG project. And they are a major user of our conventional oil and gas.
Okay, now there's a lot to take in there. The first thing Trump did was get China out of Panama Canal. Why? Well, it's the Road and Belt Initiative. And it's to stop China from getting energy. It's to slow China down. It's to hurt a communist nation who is threatening democratic nations around the world, like Canada or China, because the liberals love the fact that China helps them in elections and they all make money. He then hit Venezuela, and what's the first thing he did? Took the 800,000 barrels and said, sorry, China, we come first. China didn't like that. No. China did not like that at all. And right now, the whole battle over the Panama Canal is in their Supreme Courts. What a lot of people aren't aware of is that the Americans have been protecting Panama. They gave Panama its sovereignty. And really, the threat is not necessarily pow-pows. It's that they're going to take the American military right out, and that country will be taken over once again. And they don't want a communist nation. They really enjoy having, well, freedom. This is all to stop the communist regime of China. Do you think Trump is going to be happy if we sign deals that now give China access to the third largest reserve on the planet? And that's known reserve on the planet. Do you think he's going to like this? Carney is purposely stirring a pot. Now, the American administrations, all of them, the Democrats and the Republicans, have seen this happening. They learnt with the first Trudeau. They watched him. They had spies watching him because of his ties to all of these communist dictatorships. Cuba, China. And they watched what he was doing to Canada. And there's still people to this day, especially out east, I don't know of any out west, who think that Pierre Trudeau is some great leader. The guy cost us. The guy destroyed our nation. He's the reason we still pay taxes. If the media would have done their job, instead of faking a Trudeau mania, by the way, that's all faked. Again, previous episodes, that was all faked. All of it's faked. Because if it was real, they would have done the Pierre mania. Because Pierre had 5 times the amount of people supporting him. His rallies were breaking records. But oh, no. This is propaganda. Especially if it empowers the East and degrades, sacrifices the West so the East can just keep pillaging off of us. This is the reality. The States knows this. And then we come out of it, we start to finally do well, we start to get some free trade deals, we start to try and find an equilibrium, we start to actually want to start putting money and investing it into the military, we start to realize the power that this nation could be, and a bunch of NGOs come in, and well, they sway an election with the help of China and this entire carbon credit, green cult. And here we are, under the thumb, losing more and more of our freedoms every day. Why? Trump's Venezuela oil grab pushes Chinese refineries to Canada. Again, I'll post all of these links, like I always do, because I'm here to give you all of the information, not lies. Yes, I have an opinion. That's fine. I have my own moral integrity. That's what I live by. But I won't edit sound bites and video clips. And I don't use AI. I read everything. I read everything intently. I watch everything from beginning to end. I search everything out in order to give my audience all of the information that they need in order to make an educated decision and to understand what I'm seeing and how I come across broadcasting this to you. Now, I do have people that disagree with me here and there. I've got some people that are great debaters, and we can agree to disagree. That's democracy. But without the information, what good is a channel that calls himself a media outlet? I can't call myself a journalist if I don't give you the information. Moving on.
Hodgson, can I ask you, in the joint statement, the joint roadmap today that was released by both countries, you welcomed investment in a number of areas, including energy. In 2012, the Canadian government shut the oil sands off to further investment from China. That was in 2012. Are you open to more investment from China in the oil sands now?
The Harper government saw what was going on. They saw how China has pushed the red line. Well, they didn't push it. They crossed it. They jumped over it with catapults. They were launching huge projectiles with their own spies on it right into our system. They saw what was happening. They saw the NGOs. They saw what China was doing to the Uyghurs, to all of these other people within their country, let alone the damage and the carnage they were doing around the world. Harper, using Canadian moral, Canadian heart, what it is to be Canadian, the dignified thing to do, and he shut China down.
So today, China is a major investor in the oil sands, both as an operator and as a passive investor. They desire to have more of our energy. As long as they're a responsible producer, we're open to more investment from China.
Can I ask you to clarify that answer, please? The 2012 policy walled off new investment, and you say they're an active player today. Sure, because of previous investments. Are you open to changing the Investment Canada Act to bring in new, more Chinese investment in the oil sands?
Look, they're already major investors. They have the opportunity to increase their production. If they, like anyone else, is going to invest in new operations, they would go through the Investment Canada Act. But let me be clear. We are here because we share a goal. We share a goal on getting to net zero. We believe we have lots of common interests with respect to how we use clean energy to get there, and we have common interests around how to get there on a conventional basis. And we're going to exploit that for the benefit of Canadian workers and for Canadians.
They're going to exploit that. They're going to exploit that, people. Harper in China. Prime Minister attacks foreign money behind oil sands protest. Refuses to trade human rights. In other words, will not sacrifice not only Canadians, but any human, to the atrocities of what China was doing, not only within their own country, but around the world. That is Canadian values. But no. The Liberals, same Liberal Party in the last 10 years, they're going to exploit that. Kind of the way they're exploiting Iran. It's the same thing. They don't care. They don't care about human rights, women's rights, child's rights. They don't care. If they did, they wouldn't be dealing with China from the beginning. But that's this lost decade. That's why we are under the thumb of Trump. That's why we are being hammered. It all comes down to the last 10 years. Canada admits Palestinian terror groups received funds from government. This is all under the Liberals, people. Hezbollah, other terror groups actively fundraising in Canada. Canada's dirty money is funding instability in the Middle East. So I'm going to have to read this to mute. And here we go. I've seen at least 3 children had a scar on their body. Indicates the organ had been stolen. In 1995, it comes to my turn to do it. Doctor in China on organ harvesting. An armed officer directed us to the far right of the corner, where I can see a civilian clothed man lying on the ground, with a single bullet wound to his right chest. My chief surgeon then ordered and guided me to extract the liver and 2 kidneys. The man was still alive. He tried to resist my scalpel's cut, but too weak to avoid my action. There was bleeding. He was still alive. But I didn't feel guilty. In fact, I didn't feel anything. But like a full programmed robot doing its task, I thought I was carrying out my duty to eliminate the enemy of the state. This is called the slaughter because these people, Uyghurs, Falun Gong practitioners, Falun Gong pregnant women, and not even given any form to sign, there was no consent form to write out. This was the final act. I want to donate my organs to the state. The government in China is doing a terrible thing, which is comparable to what the Nazis did. The military is making money off it. The hospitals are making money off it. The middlemen are making money off it. We're talking about money. We're talking about a multi-million-dollar operation. If you're going to China right now to get an organ, chances are a perfectly innocent person is dying for you. Why are we dealing in China? Why? Why do we trade anything with a country that would do this to a human being? At what point does a person start to realize you need to make sacrifices in order to not only keep your own freedom, but to use your freedom to help others become free? The Liberal Party is a sham. It's a joke. These people are evil. They don't care about you. They don't care.
Of course, most of the action in organ harvesting has kind of switched over to this huge population of Uyghurs, which is sort of 1 million in the camps. Maybe about that same amount now, except that they're just all pretty much workers. In fact, this entire organ transplant system was built on the backs of Falun Gong, if you like. They supplied the raw materials for this explosion of an industry, the transplant industry that spread to every province in China, and it was all built on Falun Gong. Now it's being supplied mostly by the Uyghurs, that's my guess, and possibly by the Tibetans.
Ah, there it is. What most people aren't realizing. Yes, the Tibetans have been disappearing at an alarming rate. They pretty much exterminated the Falun Gong. They needed a secondary source of this exploding industry. Once they realized the world was watching what was going on with the Uyghurs, they started needing somebody else that they could take that would be really hard for people to actually see. So they started using, well, they still do harvest the Uyghurs. It's like by the numbers. Let's breed them and maintain a certain amount so we can guarantee X amount of organs. And the rest we will harvest other things from them, like their hair. They moved on to the Tibetans. And there are women and thousands upon thousands of children missing. Nobody's talking about it. But okay, Canada, let's make a deal with China. Let's increase our trade with the worst, most disgusting people on the planet. Sure, why not? Again, I urge you to watch this documentary, China's Brutal Crackdown on Xinjiang's Muslim Uyghur Minority. You can't get in. You can't see what's going on. Why are we trading with people like this? Why? It makes no sense at all.
Most people had never heard about Uyghurs, who live for the most part in northwestern China and the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, while a small number live in Central Asian republics. They came to the forefront when Muslim NBA star Enes Kanter Freedom, born in Turkey, became a primary voice attacking the woke and celebrity hypocrisy over their claims of concern for human rights, while continuing to make millions knowing that slave labor is making them wealthy. Who are the Uyghurs? Why are they targeted by the Communist Chinese government? Why do millionaires and American corporations still do business in China knowing the human rights abuses?
Again, all of this you have right there. You have the ability to click on these links and watch these in their entirety. This country is evil, and the people who invest in it are just as evil. Are you, as a Canadian, happy that we're supporting this when we have the ability to crush it, to stop it from happening? Meantime, Iranians are falling, trying to fight for democracy and freedom, and our media has blackouts. They have blackouts, lying to you, telling you 2,500 people from an NGO. All these numbers come from, these are credible NGOs who take money, because they're non-government organizations. They got to get funding from somewhere. Who's funding them? The global elite.
Can I just ask a general question about investing in China? There's a ton of experts we've spoken to in the business community in Canada who are gun shy about investing in China. Joint ventures aren't such. It's China win. It's not win-win. We're using burner phones for the first time when we covered this because China spies on journalists and businessmen. China intercepts communications. Is China really the right kind of partner for Canadian industry?
Holy cow. Somebody asked the right question. Do you think they'll get an honest answer?
And we've been clear-eyed. We're eyes wide open.
Really?
We know this. But there's been investments by Canadian companies for years here. Tomorrow I'm meeting with Magna.
Right. So because other people are investing in it, that means we all should invest in it? That means we should give our resources to these murderers? We should sign our souls over? Blacken our hearts to appease who? These multi-millionaires, these billionaires? Brookfield and Carney?
Magna, one of the biggest auto parts companies in the world. They have 30,000 people working here.
Who cares?
We're meeting with Manulife. We're meeting with BMO. These companies have been in China for years. Now, obviously, we're having these conversations with the Chinese government. If they're going to invest in our country, they need to make sure that our companies are able to invest and have access to stability and have access to a form of certainty. And so that's what we're working on. When we engage with China and we engage with businesses like Tim and I have been doing, we put everything on the table to address these risks.
Have they put the Uyghurs on the table? The Fuyong? The Tibetans? Have they appointed somebody to fulfill the seat for the foreign interference registry? Have they kicked out the 10 that we know of MPs that were put into power with Chinese interference in Canada? No, none of the above. They don't care. They don't care.
And that's why this visit is so important, and it's been a focus of the Prime Minister.
This is a heartless witch, people. Like the very first clip I showed you, she smiled when it comes to the New World Order. They don't care about you.
So what was the purpose of your meeting with CATL today? Do you want...
In the meantime, propaganda.
Mark Carney has wrapped up his first full day here in Beijing. It started with a number of private meetings with the leaders of Chinese companies in the clean tech, fintech, and energy sectors. One of those businesses, CATL. It's the world's largest maker of batteries for electric vehicles. Now, Carney has made it no secret that he wants major companies like this to spend more money in Canada. From there, Carney...
Back to the electric cars. Back to the carbon credit system. If you're an auto worker in Canada and you voted Liberal, you better wake up. You better wake up. Because Dougie Ford, not the brother, and the Liberal Party, they don't care about you. They don't care. And your unions are using you. Because most of them are absolute idiots. They don't care either. They're in it for a glorified paycheck with their ears plugged and their eyes blindfolded, running around in circles, screaming bullshit. You voted Liberal, you voted your own demise.
Carney pivoted to politics, but his meetings with government officials, including the Chinese premier, still focused on increasing trade and collaborations in various areas to ultimately help the Canadian economy. Carney said he was heartened by the leadership of Chinese President Xi Jinping and that the warming ties paved the way.
He was heartened by the leadership of Xi Jinping. He was heartened. He has no heart. If he says he's heartened over that murderous leader, then obviously he doesn't care about human life, democracy, human rights. He don't care. It's all about the money.
To a strategic partnership in certain areas. The warm words coming from the Chinese side too, who described this visit as a turning point and welcomed deeper ties and collaboration. Tomorrow, Carney will meet with President Xi Jinping at the Great Hall. Annie Bergeron-Oliver, CTV News, Beijing.
It's all bullcrap. It's all bullcrap. And then you get crap like this. It's become worse with the new leader of the CCP. China's atrocity crimes in Xinjiang are entering an even darker phase. The UN must act. This is why Trump and his administration are so pissed off at the UN. This is why they call him out all the time. Why have you got dictators that are part of the UN? Why are the worst country when it comes to human rights leading the human rights panel? At what point? How ignorant and obtuse could one really be? Well, look at Canada. Look at what our leaders are doing. Well, not my leaders, the Liberal leaders, because there's no way I could ever vote for anybody who agrees to dealing with this type of a regime. This is just disgusting. And there you have it. Canada willing to just keep going down, keep digging itself into a hole because there is a small, well, just enough to keep the Liberals in power, that refuse to admit wrong. They refuse to see the reality of what's going on. Unbelievable, makes no sense to me, but I also understand the power of propaganda. So once again, this is why I say, please like, share, and subscribe, and not just me. There are other great independent media outlets that need your help. It's the only way we can fight the censorship. We can actually remove this government if people can see the truth. And especially in my case, get all the links to the information so they can see I'm not lying. I'm not twisting things. Yes, I may have an opinion. I blame my morals. I blame my Canadian morals. But the information's all there, right in the description below. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Pray for Iran. Until next time, you've been watching the Canadian Citizen Journal. Stay informed.